You're listening to Big World Network.
Harvest of Ash, Episode 1, written and read by Amelia Kibbe. In the central kingdom of Anafil, they followed the new religion. The sacred text had come to their shores less than 100 years ago, but its message spread with viral haste, soaking the land like the cleansing flood it spoke of. Statues of the old gods were toppled and demolished, the sacred places razed or rebuilt as churches, or their stones carried away for cathedrals in the capital. Ash's father had been a devout follower, had shattered his share of idols in the name of the new god, but his only daughter followed the old ways, the ways of her mother's people. It was the full moon, the moon of harvest, a moon of wishes, a night to manifest desires. Ash had something she wanted, and every full moon she prayed for it. It had yet to come to her, but each month an ancient voice whispered inside of her to be patient. So she did the ritual again and again, and tonight was no different. The voice spoke, filling her with wordless initiative, and she followed it. Ash rose from her pallet in the kitchen and padded, barefoot, to the massive stone hearth, the flagstones chilly and damp beneath her feet. Making no sound, she knelt and lifted a loose corner of the fireplace, revealing a cramped cranny behind the flagstone. From this dark place, she withdrew a small effigy of the goddess Malthana, queen of battle, sister of blood, protector of women. It was roughly made, assuredly, carved by her own hand from a piece of kindling, but the radiation of energy that sang down her hand when she touched it told her all she needed to know. By the dim red light of the dying fire, Ash placed Malthana upon the hearth and lit the stub of a candle. She curled herself down before the makeshift altar, her knees making impressions in the fine layer of soot on the floor, and began her silent prayer. Gracious and powerful Malthana, you who are the queen of the gods, the true sword, mistress of all that is wild and free, mother of all warriors, hear my prayer. I must find a way to be free of this house, free of those who oppress me. I wish to find a way where I do not have to die and may live in peace after the work is done. I want to return to my mother's people, your faithful followers. Please, please, find a way to set me free. I beg of you, set me free. Set me free, and my blade is forever yours. I will spill blood honorably for you if that is your wish. I will birth warriors. My destiny is yours if you will grant me freedom. Show me the way. Show me the way to be free. Bless my mother if you should happen upon her in the halls of the heroic dead. She whet her blade many times for you, gracious lady. In the name of the ancient ones, blessed be the old ways. After a few quiet moments, Ash stood, blew out the candle, and returned her household goddess to her hiding place. As soon as the effigy was secured, she touched the tattoo over her heart, a rune for courage, accompanied by the blue swirl of the sacred spiral. It burned beneath the simple cotton shift she wore, longing to be free, though none in this house but she had ever laid eyes on it. She returned to her straw pallet, but despite the toil of the day, Ash could not sleep. Faces and images burned behind her eyes, swirling through the darkness. She rose again and moved, a white shadow, through the slumbering manor, a home of bounty and contentment. No one stirred, not the other servants, and certainly not the occupants of the lavish upstairs bedrooms where her feet led her. First, she crept into her stepsister Agatha's room. Ash pushed the door open inch by inch. There was no sound. Agatha slept, wrapped in fine embroidered bedclothes that matched the forest scenes of her chamber's many tapestries. Ash wondered if Agatha had ever seen a forest beyond those depicted in cloth. Her stepsister seemed always to be ill, and did not like to stray far from home. She lingered in the background, it seemed, forever a trembling mouse, merely bearing witness as her mother and sister flitted between bullying and brutalizing Ash. Ash thought perhaps she should pity Agatha, that she may be a fellow victim, but she couldn't find it. If she sifted through herself for the truth, Ash felt nothing but contempt for the thin, pale woman in the bed before her. Ash hated cowards. Agatha snored with astonishing loudness for one so waifish. Ash imagined, as she did many nights, about murdering Agatha, and how she would do it if that was the path she chose. Since Agatha had never wielded the switch or the hot poker, she would give her stepsister the gift of a beautiful corpse. A pillow over the face would suffice, and it would be over quickly, with only momentary, unforeseen terror. The women in the next bedchamber, however, would not be spared anything should Ash ever decide that her blade must sing. Her stepsister Callia, fast asleep, sprawled out on her stomach next to a half-finished bottle of mead, drooled from one side of her perfectly shaped mouth. Ash peered through the partially open door and allowed herself to picture it yet again, twining her fingers through her stepsister's golden red curls, yanking her head to the heavens, and drawing her knife from one side to the other. Then, before her stepmother Cortana fully awoke, drawing herself up to her full height, Ash would strike her down in her own bed, burying the blade to its hilt in her chest. While the blood pumped over the hilt of her knife, she would stare into her stepmother's face in satisfied silence until the light left her gravestone gray eyes. The very second those stony eyes had locked on hers for the first time, Ash knew that this woman his father planned to marry, this Cortana, hated her. She had tried to tell her father, but he would not listen. "Sweetheart, you've only seen 12 summers. She's a good woman, and you need a mother," he'd said. "And now you have 2 wonderful sisters to help raise you while I'm away." He would be away often, as the captain of the border guard. And then, 4 winters ago, he left for the southern border and never returned. Killed, the messenger said, in a skirmish with the warriors from the southern kingdom of Anuban over the Turl Mountain land dispute. Now Cortana did not have to hide her loathing of her husband's daughter. "Your mother was a filthy savage," she said that night, as Ash wept over the parchment bearing news of her father's death. "Your father never should have married her, never should have brought her down from the north. She belonged with her own kind. You're not fit to stand alongside my daughters. My girls are good girls of the new religion, of good blood. You're not fit to scrub their feet." "Then send me to my mother's people," Ash begged, dragging her arm over her nose and mouth. "Please! They'll take me." Ash had grown up traveling to the northern lands every summer with her mother, and visiting the clan. It was there she learned the old religion. There she learned to wield blade and bow, to survive in the wilderness, to be one of them. Every year, as the days grew short again, she wept and begged to stay with her aunt and the Bear Clan. The clan was home, and Afiel was not, especially now that Papa was dead. "I will not," Cortana replied, low and quiet and cruel. "I will not give those pagans another warrior to oppose the will of our king." Ash stared up at her stepmother's face, both glowering and graceful, her own eyes wide with disbelief. "We shall find some use for you here, I'm sure." Cortana's small smile was a needle. Ash was their prisoner, their slave, and they took everything from her. They took her name, one turn of the moon from the night her father had met his end. That evening, when Kalia called for her to empty the chamber pot, she had arrived at the door coated in ash and soot from scrubbing the kitchen hearth. "Ha!" Kalia laughed, tossing her glossy curls over her shoulder, her green eyes snapping with cruel mirth. "Look at you. Nothing but ashes. You're as gray as your father's ghost." "All ghosts are gray," Ash replied. "You'll find out soon enough." Kalia shot up from the crimson-cushioned bed and delivered a stinging slap to the orphan's face. "Get out of here, Ashes," she hissed, "or I'll have the stable boys cut out your tongue." Once, she had been happy, learning to ride, to read, and the art of war. She had danced with her father, played with other children, and slept in her mother's arms. The manor house had heard her sing. Now ashes were all she had, a life burned, razed, obliterated. Ash gazed at Kalia and Cortana on the night of the auspicious moon, studied their sleeping faces, so placid despite the things they'd done to her, things that should have given them nightmares, and placated the part of herself that liked to imagine their violent ends. Sleep stole over her thin, exhausted body. Like a shadow, she crept back down to the servants' stairs, winding through the silent halls of the manor house and returning to the kitchen and her makeshift bed in the corner. As she settled down to rest, a glimmer of moonlight wafted through the small window as the clouds broke in the night. The cold light filtered over her, and the voice inside of her whispered, "Soon."
You're listening to Big World Network.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.